You can draw this in Procreate. I'm back with another fun little project for you, and as always, I will be guiding you through every single step in this easy Procreate drawing tutorial. We will create this blackboard style landscape with a moon, and I'm sure that once you have reached the end of this tutorial, you will feel super proud and happy, and you will just want to share your work. If you are sharing it on Instagram, then do be sure to tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that way I will be able to find your work and maybe we will see it in the next video. Just like these fantastic results from my friends at Patreon. That's the place you can go if you want to watch even more Procreate tutorials ranging from beginner levels to more advanced levels. For this tutorial, you won't need a color palette. You do need the photo that I have linked in the description, and we will be using free Procreate brushes from my Procreate treasure chest. If you don't already have it, then be sure to go to freefromflow.com to get it. It's totally free, and you will get more than 70 brushes and my ebook about color theory. In this blackboard style drawing, there won't be a lot of color though. We will just be working with white. Our canvas is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels, and we are going to start by importing our background photo. Remember, it's linked in the description. So grab your pen, then go to the wrench, and then go to Add, and then go to Insert a Photo, and then grab that blackboard texture photo. Then make sure that it covers the entire canvas. Set it to uniform here at the bottom, and then use these handles on the sides to make sure it covers everything, and then tap the arrow here at the top. If you want, you can adjust this photo a little bit, make it a little bit darker. You can do that by going to the magic wand, then to use saturation brightness, and you can lower the brightness a little bit. I'm setting it to 48%. The difference is minimal, and you might not even see it on camera, but I like it this way. Then let's tap the magic wand, and then we can get started creating our illustration. We need to make a new layer for that first, so go to the layer menu. Here you'll see your photo, then tap the plus for a new layer, and then we are going to grab a brush from the treasure chest. It's the fine liner brush. And for our color, we are going to use pure white. If your color is set to like something like this, then double tap here to grab pure white. Now the opacity of the brush is at 100%, and I have the size set to 6. No, not 6. I want it to be set to 10%. 10% size, 100% opacity, and we are going to start by drawing our mountain. And I want the top of the mountain to be about here. Let's just draw a little dot. That will be our top. And we'll go to the left first. We'll make a line like this, going down to the left like this. And then on this side, we'll make a diagonal line like this, moving down. Then another line over here that goes down here. Then another one going down, and then here we'll go up a little bit and back down. Here we'll go up and then downward and to the right. So this is our basic shape for our mountain. We can go a bit more to the left here. So something like this. You can make the shape a bit more pronounced. Just go along the outline for our basic mountain shape. Next, I want to add a little bit of texture to the base of the mountain. First, we are going to grab a brush to lay down some white. Let's just use the basic flow brush. It's also part of the treasure chest brush pack. The opacity is set to 100% and the size is at 30%. And let's just add a little bit of light over here, a little bit of that white color. A little bit here on the base as well. These are really just some random dabs actually. Lots of white here. Now then let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 10% for a little bit over here. And a little bit here. And then we are going to grab the smudge tool. That's the little finger here right next to the brush. And set it to the Salamanca brush. It's part of the painting brushes. It's a Procreate standard brush. And we are going to use this to smudge the paint around. The opacity is at 100% and the size is at, well, let's set that to 10. And now let's go over here and follow that curve of the mountain and smudge that paint around. Also in this direction. You can push and pull the paint to give shape to that mountain. Over here as well, we'll make nice flowing lines. Just make a bit of a curve here. We'll move upward. You can also push it back by going in the other direction. And that way you have a lot of control here. Here we can make another swooping line upward. And here let's go to the right. Pulling that light in that direction. We'll pull this downward a little bit. This as well. So we're making that mountain look nice and flowy. Pushing and pulling that paint. Like I said, you can push it back by going in the other direction. But I think this is looking nice. Maybe pull a little bit over here. Just a little bit more texture. You can also make the brush a little bit bigger, let's say 30%. Just some nice texture, nice flow. And once you have this, you can go back to the fine liner brush. There it is, the fine liner brush. And we are going to add some more details to our mountain. First, let's make this a little bit thicker. And then add another line here. A zigzaggy line all the way down here. And some extra like side branches of that line. Adding more interest to this mountain. We can make this a little bit thicker. Create a zigzaggy line here as well. Over here. Just some nice cracks. Breaking up the shapes on this mountain a little bit. You can make some lines here. Some over here. And then let's make a zigzaggy line here. And this is very abstract and stylized, so don't worry about it too much. Have some lines here. Maybe some little dashes just to add some more texture. I'm trying to focus on the right side of the mountain, add a few extra lines there. And then we'll switch our brush to the cookie brush. It's a nice textured brush, and we are going to use it to add a bit more white here at the base. The opacity is at 100%. Let's set the size to 25. And then let's go over here with rounded motions. Add a little bit of that white. Just like this. Then we'll switch to the dark noise brush. It's also a nice texture brush. For this brush, the opacity is set to 100% and the size, we'll set that to 55. And let's just go over these side areas. Let's zoom out a little bit. Go over these areas, make that a little bit lighter. until you have something that looks like this. Next, we are going to add some trees here. Let's add a layer mask to our layer. We are going to tap it, then tap mask. Now we have a layer mask, and we are going to make some dark trees here. We are just going to block parts of this area. For the brush, we will go to the pine tree long brush first. Make sure that your color is set to black. We are going to paint with black on our layer mask. And the opacity of this brush is at 100% and the size is at 20%. And now let's go over this area, adding some random trees. And over here as well. And then let's switch to the pine tree broad brush. Just to vary things up a little bit, the opacity is at 100% again. And let's set the size to 20% for this one. And then let's add some more trees and cover this entire area so that there's no light anymore. And on this side as well. So you get something like this. Now I do feel like we can move everything upward just a little bit. Let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and move it up just slightly until your mountain is nicely centered. Then we'll go to the layer menu and we are going to make a layer underneath our mountain layer. Let's tap the plus here. Then for our brush, we will go back to the fine liner brush. Where is it? There we have it, the fine liner brush. And now we are going to create our moon. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's start here. Draw a circle or something that looks like a circle. Then tap your finger on the screen while you hold your pen in place. And then you get this nice, perfectly round circle. Then make sure that you close your shape. Let's go along the edges of the mountain. And then let's drag in the color to fill it. Now if you have some edges, you just go along the edge to fix that. And now we are going to use a layer mask on this layer as well to add some texture here. So go to the layer, then tap it, and then use mask. And I will use black again. Now we're just going to go along that edge and make some scratchy lines. First we'll just make like a circular outline here. Just a little bit, not an entire circle, just some scratches along the outside. And then over here we are going to make some hatches. Just some lines like this, right next to each other. And some are a little bit shorter, some are longer. Just go along the side. And in some places you can add some more. Doesn't have to be perfect, just something like this. Then over here, let's do it here as well. First, make a little line here and then let's make some more hatches. So you get something like this. Now let's also add some birds that are flying in front of the moon. They will leave a silhouette. So for this, first make a shape like this. It's like a stick with a bend. Then we'll add some volume like this. Then we have a head over here and a little tail. Very simple bird shape. Then one over here. Little thicker part here. And then another line. And then another one. First a shape like this. Then a little thick part. And another line with a bend. There. Next, let's create our river. And let's do that on a layer on top of the others. Let's go here, then tap the plus, and then we still have white. And now we are going to create a river. Let's first zoom out a little bit. And let's make that river by creating these horizontal strokes. We're going to the left a little bit here, then back to the right. Here we have a nice clean curve. Color it in a little bit. Then we'll go in this direction. It looks really messy, but it's all going to be fine. Then here. So here we have that nice curve, a bend in that river. And then here, our water will drop down. So let's make a shape like this. It's like paint dropping down. Color this in, add another droplet. So it's falling off the edge. Thicker at the bottom. Perhaps some droplets. Maybe there's another little blob here. Then on this side as well, we have a drooping droplet of paint here. And another one. Just color it in. Some shorter ones. And another long one. And then here we'll make these horizontal strokes again. Try to color everything in. It's okay if you leave some gaps. Go a little bit more to the left here. And if you want to remove some parts, if you went too far in some cases, then you can just tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the fine liner. And then for instance, we can cut off a part here, refine that bend. And then you can switch back and forth between the brush and the eraser. Try to color it in a little bit more. Maybe some more droplets. Maybe we can go a little bit further here. I want to add an extra touch by using that smudge tool again. The smudge tool, it's still set to the Salamanca brush. And then let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's set it to 10%. And over here, for instance, let's just spread it a little bit. Let's just stretch it, smudge it outward, pulling that paint a little bit over here as well, not too much. Then over here, just make horizontal strokes. Don't go in an upward direction or diagonal, just horizontal. Pulling that paint. You can do a little bit more here, just a little bit. You can also push it inward a little bit. Play around with it. Just as long as you make horizontal strokes only. Here we can pull it in a little bit so that it nicely flows in between those trees. That's fantastic. Let's move on. Let's work our way up. Let's first lighten this area a little bit. Let's do that on the same layer, and let's use the cookie brush again. So the cookie brush, you can keep the size and just go over here and add a little bit of that light as if there's a lot of mist, and it makes that river blend a bit more with the mountain. Now let's move on to our sky. Let's create a new layer on top of our moon layer. Let's tap the plus. And then for our brush, let's grab the fine liner brush again. Now we are going to create an extra moon because we are living in a fantasy world here and we can have as many moons as we like. I want to have a little sickle moon here. So draw an open circle, tap one finger on the screen to make it perfectly round, and then make another one on the inside. Tap your finger on the screen, and then we can drag in the color to fill the shape. You might need to zoom in a little bit, fix it, fix those edges. It should look something like this. Then we are going to duplicate this. So we'll go to the layer menu, we'll slide to the left, tap duplicate, then we'll go to the bottom one, then we'll go to the magic wand here, and then select Gaussian blur. Then slide to the right just slightly, let's say 5%, that's enough. Then we'll go to this layer again, we'll tap the plus, and now we are going to draw some clouds. Let's start on this side. Let's make a cloud that's covering that moon a little bit. And we're going to make a simple cloud shape, which has some nice rounded shapes like this. And the underside is pretty flat. So something like this. Then we can drag in the color, correct the edges a little bit, but it's okay if it's a little bit messy. I like that look for these clouds. Let's add some extra tufts of cloud underneath, and one over here, and maybe a little thingy here, a little dab here. Then on the other side, let's make another poofy cloud. Rounded shapes, and then we have that flat underside. So something like this. Drag in the color, fix some parts, but leave it a little bit messy. And another shape underneath, very flat cloud, another shape here, and then finally a cloud over here. Again, nice rounded shapes, flat underside, drag in the color, and then fix the edges a little bit. We'll add a few more shapes underneath, these nice wispy clouds. Some dabs there. Now we are going to merge this layer with our moon layer, with the big round moon layer. We'll pinch these together, and then we are going to add a new layer mask here. We'll tap the layer, add a mask, and then we are going to mask parts of these clouds. We'll start here. Let's make a horizontal line here, as if this wispy cloud is covering a part of that moon here. And then over here we'll make a little swirly. Now we can also make a little swirly here, just a little round shape, go inward here, and perhaps here, just following those curves that you have already created. Now let's also create some almost like stitches, some of these lines along the edge, adding some interesting texture to these clouds. Let's go a little bit further here in front of the moon. So something like this. Then on this side, make some swirlies for these clouds. So I'm following that curve and then moving inward and making that swirly shape. Some over here, and then some of those stitch-like lines. And over here as well, just some longer lines perhaps. And also on these smaller little clouds here. Then for this one, another swirly. And one here. And then those stitch-like lines. You can see how these little lines, these little extras, make your clouds look so much more interesting. Now let's also add some extra touches to the sky. Let's go back to the layer with the clouds. We still have white and we still have our fine liner brush. Let's just add some dots. Maybe these are bright stars or even planets. We're just going to fill our sky with this nice texture. It adds interest. We can also add these lines. That's a bit. Just in random places, make these dots, make some bigger, some smaller. Perhaps a little line under that moon. Little clusters of stars. Until you have a nice balance. Maybe a little cluster here. I think this looks good. Now finally I want to add a slight texture to the sky. Let's do that on a layer underneath. So first tap layer 1, then tap the plus. And then for our brush, let's grab the dark noise brush. And let's just go over the sky here, just around a little bit. Around that moon. Then switch to the smudge tool. Let's make it a little bit bigger, 30%. And let's make these rounded motions, smudging this dark noise to add a slight texture, slight light. Very gently. And if it's a little bit too much, then you can just go to the layer menu, tap the N, and lower the opacity. I'm going to set it to 50%. And there you have your Blackboard style landscape illustration. I hope you have enjoyed creating this. Thank you for spending this time with me. Do be sure to share your result. I would love to see it. And if you enjoyed this and if you want to turn this into a streak, then why not follow this tutorial next? I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.